Welcome back to Hardware Unboxed for another GPU pricing update video. This month's update is particularly interesting because not only are we seeing prices continuing to improve, but it's also the first time this generation that a company has made an official price adjustment for their GPUs. That's right, a few days ago, Nvidia quietly pushed out a temporary price reduction for some of their high-end models. According to a report from PC Gamer, Nvidia are running promotional pricing for the RTX 3080 12GB and above. In their words, after a long period of supply shortages, we are taking action with our partners to deliver a limited time promotion for enthusiast gamers and serious creators. Of course, there's more to the story than just that, but before we dive in, today's video is sponsored by Gigabyte. The latest Aorus and Gigabyte gaming and creator laptops feature up to an Nvidia GeForce RTX 3080 Ti graphics card and up to 12th gen Intel Core i9 processors. This powerful combination of hardware is great whether you're a gamer or creator. Gamers will be interested in the Aorus 17X featuring high-performance GeForce RTX graphics, a super-fast 360Hz display, and heaps of cooling power. The RTX 3080 Ti model is very impressive in the speed it delivers for gaming in a laptop form factor, especially with DLSS enabled. Learn more via the links below, including the Remix contest where you can win an Aero 15 OLED laptop. Basically, the reason Nvidia have dropped prices isn't so much that they want to do everyone a favor, and more that consumers aren't buying GPUs right now at current prices. The next generation of graphics cards is widely anticipated and expected before the end of the year. Existing GPUs are nearing on 2 years old now, and a lot of shoppers are making a pretty solid judgment call that the value proposition for high-end models isn't great. This is leaving thousands upon thousands of graphics cards sitting around going unsold, putting pressure on everyone in the supply chain to get rid of these units before next gen arrives and they become even harder to sell. We've heard that there's quite a big backlog of GPUs to sell, and cards aren't exactly flying off the shelves at the moment, despite some of the lowest prices in 2 years. However, it's hard for retailers and AIBs to just lower prices by themselves to get volumes flowing. Cutting prices too low, especially below MSRP, could see them make a loss on each model, which is obviously something most companies want to avoid. Usually, AIBs want to receive some sort of rebate or compensation from the GPU manufacturer before cutting prices, and that appears to be what Nvidia are enacting now with their promotional pricing update. The updated pricing sees the RTX 3090 Ti drop from $2,000 to $1,500 US. The RTX 3090 goes from $1,500 to $1,300. The RTX 3080 Ti drops from $1,200 to $1,100, and the RTX 3080 12GB finally gets some sort of official price now set at $800. All other models remain unchanged, which isn't too surprising as the demand for lower priced models is still reasonable. It's mostly these top tier cards that are proving harder to sell. But there's a few points to make about these adjusted prices. Firstly, some AIBs were already selling their GPUs at these prices before this announcement. Checking in on Newegg pricing for the last 3 months, the RTX 3080 Ti, for example, has already been selling for as low as $1,000 last month and can currently be found for just $930, an MSI Gaming X Trio model, which is well below Nvidia's supposed promotional pricing of $1,100. The RTX 3090 Ti was also nearing $1,500, though the price adjustment has seen prices drop 11% this month. The RTX 3090 has seen an even larger drop, a 21% price correction. Another interesting phenomenon is the current pricing for the RTX 3080 12GB compared to the original 10GB model. The 12GB model is actually now cheaper than the 10GB model on Newegg, comparing cheapest model versus cheapest model. The 10GB card is more expensive this month, rising just above $800 US, while the 12GB model has dropped 15% to $740 at the lowest, including rebates. This is likely due to AIBs receiving some assistance from Nvidia to sell the 12GB model, whereas no such assistance is currently being provided for the 10GB card. Obviously, this makes the 12GB card the better buy, as it not only has more VRAM, it's also slightly faster. Across the rest of Nvidia's lineup, the news is less positive than at the high end. With no promotional pricing for the RTX 3080 10GB and below, most of these models are still being sold for above the MSRP. The RTX 3070 and RTX 3060 Ti did come down in price, but the RTX 3060 actually went up in price, while the 3050 seems to have bottomed out at $330 US, despite a $250 MSRP. The average month-on-month price drop across the lineup is less than what we saw in June. For AMD GPUs, there has been no official word on price cuts from AMD, but pricing in general continues to fall across their lineup. On average, cards from the RX 6000 series are sitting 10% below their launch MSRPs, with all models except the 6800 series available below their official price, and the 6800 series is very close to MSRP now. These price cuts include freshly released models from the 50XT range, such as the RX 6650 XT, which is already 13% below MSRP for the cheapest models on Newegg right now. On average, AMD GPUs actually fell in price more than Nvidia GPUs, and month on month, July has been a better month for AMD products. Some cards are reaching quite low prices, much more acceptable prices in the current market, such as the RX 6600, which is available for just $260 US. I remember back when RX 6500 XTs were selling at launch for around $260, and let me tell you, the RX 6600 is a miles better purchase at that price. With that said, the 6500 XT is slowly creeping down in price itself, approaching the sort of price point it should be at. Both Nvidia and AMD are also attempting to sweeten the deal with various game bundles. AMD has the Radeon Raise the Game bundle, offering up to 3 games with your GPU purchase. The RX 6500 XT and below gets just Saints Row. The RX 6650 XT and below gets that game plus Forspoken, while the RX 6700 and above get those 2 games plus Sniper Elite 5. Like most of these bundles, you'll need to purchase through a participating retailer. Meanwhile, on the Nvidia side, they've got a 4-game bundle running right now, although it's really more like 2 games with 2 DLC packs: Ghostwire Tokyo, Doom Eternal, and both parts of Doom Eternal's The Ancient Gods expansion. Unlike with AMD's bundle, which gives you a game with any of their current gen GPUs, Nvidia's bundle only applies to the RTX 3080 and above, desktop and laptop models. Here's how AMD and Nvidia's lineups are currently matching up. The reduction in pricing for Nvidia's high-end models hasn't changed too much about the competition at the high end, as these cards are already in kind of a class of their own in terms of pricing. Most of these models still don't make a ton of sense from a value standpoint. I don't see why you'd bother spending nearly $200 more on the 3080 Ti over the 3080 12GB, and similarly, spending $150 more on the 6900 XT instead of a 6800 XT doesn't seem like a sensible choice, and that's despite the 6900 XT sitting 15% below MSRP. Right now, a chasm is kind of opened around the $600 price point, which the RX 6800 exclusively occupies. Nvidia doesn't really have a model in that price range right now. Meanwhile, in the lower parts of the market, the RX 6700 XT is looking really solid, with its pricing sitting around the mark of the RTX 3060, though the RTX 3060 Ti isn't too far behind in price. Then in the mainstream section, it's really all AMD right now, with the RTX 3050 going head-to-head with the RX 6600 XT at the same price. I'm not even going to talk about the GeForce GTX 1630, that card isn't even available on Newegg, and of course, it's total garbage. As for whether you should buy a GPU right now, I've seen a range of opinions from other people, ranging everywhere from you must buy all the GPUs immediately to you should definitely hold off for the next generation. I sit somewhere in the middle, and my opinion hasn't really changed too much on this compared to last month. Despite Nvidia's price adjustments and cards in the high end of the market getting generally cheaper, I don't think it's a good idea to buy many of the high-end models right now. An RTX 3090 for $1,300 still seems very expensive, and I wouldn't be keen on shelling out $1,000 for an RX 6950 XT either. At the minimum, I'd want tier below pricing, so an RTX 3090 at the MSRP of an RTX 3080, or an RTX 3080 for about $500 type of deal, and I think we're still away from that pricing being a reality. I say this for a couple of reasons. One is that these models will likely be superseded this year with faster cards, and I don't think either GPU brand will be able to get away with as ridiculous of a pricing model as they might have been able to a year ago. Buy now at the MSRP and get burned within 6 months is kind of what I expect. The other main reason is I feel there's a bit of angst brewing from the AIBs about how many cards there are left to sell before the next gen arrives. Current pricing is low compared to, say, 9 months ago, but it's not that low. We aren't seeing ridiculously good deals, as a lot of cards, especially from Nvidia, are still priced above the MSRP. As soon as that damn wall breaks, which could be within the next few months going on current trends and what we're hearing, that'll be the time to buy. So keep an eye out for deep discounts and flash sales. Don't be tempted into deals that aren't even meeting the advertised price from 2 years ago. As for mid-range and mainstream GPUs, I could make a case to either buy or wait depending on your needs. Nvidia's RTX 3050 and RTX 3060 have plateaued in price over the last few months, while AMD GPU pricing continues to fall in this category, which I think has surprised me a little bit. I don't expect these sorts of GPUs to be superseded soon, so you might be waiting a year or more for next-gen replacements. Now, of course, you could wait and hope that prices fall a bit further, but I think there will be less pressure on AIBs to sell their existing inventory of these models, which may limit how cheap they get. And we're already seeing a bit of that with those Nvidia cards. Now, I'm not suggesting everyone should buy or everyone should wait, but I think there's more of a case in this price range to buy. Looking at the used market now, using eBay completed listings, there's actually a few interesting things this month. For the GeForce 20 series, prices continued to fall and we saw an 8% reduction month on month. Not as much of a price drop as last month, but close, and you can see a lot of these cards are now well below MSRP as they should be. The RTX 2070, for example, is now selling for under $300 used. Back in July of last year, you were looking at paying over $600 for one of these cards. For the GeForce 16 series, price drops are slowing down a bit, particularly for cards now selling in the sub $150 range. The GTX 1650 and 1650 Super are priced about the same on eBay right now, so it doesn't make any sense to buy the non-Super model, which is slower. Last month, we saw quite a big 16% price drop on average for this series. This month, it's just 6%. When it comes to the Pascal era of GPUs, prices have hit the floor in July with very little movement, and in some cases, cards getting slightly more expensive. Especially for the lower tier cards, it doesn't seem like sellers are willing to part with their old models for less than $100. And this could be related to the RTX 3050's price stagnation in recent months as well. After all, it's the used market that is catering to Nvidia buyers after a card for less than $300, especially given how terrible the GTX 1630 is. The Radeon RX 5000 series continues to get cheaper, but like with other used models, the pace at which prices are coming down has slowed. Just a 10% drop month on month compared to 24% in June. The level to which prices have come down for these mining-friendly cards is pretty crazy. A year ago, you would have had to fork out around $800 for a 5700 XT used. Today, they are less than $300, and I imagine a lot of the cards on eBay are ex-mining models. Then for AMD's older GPUs, we've seen a big drop in price for the Vega series, but a less significant decrease for Polaris-based models. Again, around that $100 price point, there's a bit of stagnation. RX 584GB and RX 574GB models haven't changed in price all that much, though either option is quite cheap, especially that RX 570. Overall, we're continuing to edge closer to what I'd describe as a normal GPU market, although I don't think we're quite there yet, as some GPUs still aren't selling at the MSRP and others should be cheaper than MSRP due to their age but aren't. Of course, at this point, a number of these MSRPs are looking fairly dubious, if they weren't already looking super dubious, but on a positive note, it is great to see prices continue to come down for the majority of cards. Nvidia are even making official price adjustments now, although they are only for a limited time. Given just how many GPUs we're hearing are left to be sold before the next generation of cards launch, we could be not too far away from one final push to clear existing inventories. I don't think we're at that stage just yet, but as soon as it happens, it could be the best time to buy a new GPU this year. Like I said earlier, keep an eye out for flash sales and anything that brings pricing well below MSRP. If you can snag a higher end model for tier below pricing, I think you'll be doing super well, but I wouldn't be tempted spending, say, $800 or more on a lot of the current gen models. On the used market, price reductions are slowing to some degree, particularly for cards below $200 and older lines like the GeForce 10 series. However, there's still a fair bit of ex-mining stock floating around that's yet to be sold through, so when combined with an apparent oversupply of new GPUs, I think pricing could fall further still. Just be wary when looking at buying a used GPU, as a lot of listings will be for ex-mining cards that have been flogged over the last 2 years. Make sure you get a good deal on something like that. Anyway, that's it for our monthly pricing update. Like I said, we'll be continuing this through until the next generation of GPUs arrive, because I am super interested to see how, once we start getting announcements of next gen cards, how that will affect the pricing of current gen models. Not 100% sure whether we'll see prices dip steeply at that point or whether we'll see prices sort of stay the same, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens around that time. Anyway, if you're interested in supporting the channel, we have our Patreon and Float Plan accounts. Links to those are in the description below. If you sign up, you'll gain access to things like our Discord chat, BTS videos. We've been doing a few of those recently. We've got our monthly live stream coming up as well with Steve and myself, so again, well worth signing up. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.